Hello people, welcome to my YouTube channel, and in today's video we're going to be discussing something that is not so well known in terms of conditions. All of you must have heard of OCD and depression, anxiety, borderline personality disorder, etc. But in this particular video we're going to be discussing something known as body dysmorphic disorder. The term might not be well known, but it is something that I see a lot of people grappling with, whether they know it or not. They might not have the name for the condition. More often than not, what happens is if somebody is going through if somebody has some mental condition, they probably don't know the name, and that is why that prevents them from seeking valid professional help, right? When they could, right? Because if they don't know the name, how would they say what's wrong with them? In body dysmorphic disorder, a person spends a lot of time preoccupied with a perceived flaw in their physical appearance. To put it simply, let's say there is a person called Tina. Tina spends a lot of time in a day thinking about how long her nose is, right? Somebody might have told her at some point of time that she has a long nose, not in a bad way, not in a, maybe they complimented her, maybe they didn't. It was just a physical description of how her nose is. Now, because of this, what happens is Tina thinks about it all the time. She always thinks about how her nose is ugly, it's not visually appealing. She spends a lot of time looking into the mirror. She might ask other people, which is another one of the symptoms. She might ask her friends, like, if her nose is really long, she might ask, hey, is my nose long? Is it short? And, friends, if they're nice people, they might even say that, okay, no, there's nothing wrong with it. But, Tina goes back to, but nothing helps her, right? No amount of assurance, no amount of, looking in the mirror, obsessing or constantly comparing herself to someone else's nose. Yeah, this too happens in body dysmorphic disorder. A person who's obsessed with a particular bodily flaw might compare that bodily flaw with someone they think is perfect, or it doesn't even matter. They're just going to keep comparing, right? So it becomes like a mental ritual kind of a thing that they keep comparing in order to either feel better or not. Usually they end up feeling worse. No amount of reassurance, no amount of talking to them helps, right? Because it's all in the head, right? The image is cued, right? What they see in the mirror is not how they actually look. That is the worst part. So these are some of the symptoms, right? You might see such people constantly asking their friends, families, for assurance, about that, whether they look good or whether this particular part of their body or their face is okay or not. They might constantly be looking into the mirror. In some worst cases, right, when they're absolutely certain that they look, that a certain body part of theirs or a facial feature is not up to the standards as they think it is, right? They might avoid mirrors altogether. You might actually see such people avoiding mirrors. They might be horrified to look at their reflection because it reminds them of their own physical perceived inadequacy. It's not a real inadequacy. It's all in the head, right? Such people might also, if they have adequate resources, might also resort to cosmetic surgeries, plastic surgeries. They might go through such, procedures, hoping that they might look better, or their perceived flaw, whatever facial flaw or body flaw is, that can be fixed, right? But the thing is, since the problem is in the head, no amount of physical intervention is ever going to help, right? No amount of surgical intervention is going to help in this case, right? Because the problem is not on the face or the body, it's in the head, right? So that is something that needs to be identified. You see a lot of such people. For example, I think for that matter, even Michael Jackson or Donatella Versace, the people who constantly have had undergo such terrible procedures. It's terrible because it's harmful for you, right? Constantly going under the knife. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but people who have had multiple cosmetic procedures, cosmetic surgeries, you can safely assume that they might have body dysmorphic disorder. So some of the common areas are, skin, acne, hair, where, a person might be preoccupied just looking at their hair, trying to fix it, like, whether their hair is thinning or it's, if they're going bald, if they're, it's all in the head. Or the other obsession could be like, eyes, nose. They could be obsessed with symmetry, right? Because, now magazines are, which is also, like, to some extent it's true that, beauty is in the symmetry. So they say it's been scientifically proven, but such people might be obsessed with their facial symmetry, right? In men, this could manifest as preoccupation with their height, preoccupation with their muscles, if they're muscular enough or not, and they'll constantly compare themselves to other people, right, who they think are, are the benchmark, and they just end up feeling pathetic after that, right? Because it's the problem is in the head. It's a mental problem. It's not a physical problem, right? So whatever the perceived flaws that exists only in the head, when they see the reflection, they don't see how the other people see them, right? The image is always skewed, right? This condition can be very distressing. It can be actually very very it can take a toll on person's mental health. They might feel that it can induce a lot of anxiety. The person can start verging on depression and can fall to depression. More often than not, these conditions can coexist. And it's important to identify this in the right time. Or if you have a friend or a relative who's going through something like this, and if you come across this video, it's good to assume, it would be safe to assume that they might have body dysmorphic disorder. And it wouldn't be the worst thing to suggest that they undergo therapy. There are two types of therapies that are ideally recommended for something like this, the same as OCD, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, and exposure and response therapy. So I'm going to be discussing more on this topic later, but for today, that would be it. Please like, share, and subscribe, and please press the bell icon to get video updates. Goodbye.